to be disciples of Jesus, I think John the Baptist is obviously where you want to start, is because he was the one that even told him, say that in John chapter 1, for example, like, listen, you got to follow him now. It was never about him. He must increase and I must decrease. And John realized the importance that even his disciples, a lot of people don't realize it, but Andrew, the brother of Peter, was a disciple of John. And John, more than likely, where you have James and John, the sons of Zebedee, more than likely John was a disciple of John the Baptist. And we pick that up in the Gospel of John, because someone is there with Andrew who were disciples of John the Baptist, and goes, and he's kind of unnamed, but he's there with them because there's two of them, and they go and they find Peter, and they said, listen, we found the Messiah. And then suddenly, you got this small group of people following Jesus, and you're assuming that the writer, who is John, that's his way of telling you I was there. But it's an assumption, but we can make a pretty good assumption on that. But anyway, the point being is that John saw the importance of pointing towards Jesus, taking the light off. People, they love the spotlight. We like the spotlight. If anything, social media has taught us, we like the spotlight. We like selfies. We like our own thing. We like the spotlight. We really do. We don't like to even give anymore without making a public announcement about it. I was listening to this. I'm talking about like when you see people do acts of kindness, it's good. And don't get me wrong. I think sometimes it does, spark something in other people about maybe what a church is doing or whatever. But I do think it's funny how we cannot even give a homeless man some money on the side of the road without telling the world about it. And I think, is this really about the homeless man or more about you? And don't get me wrong, I think we should be givers. I think we should do these things. And at the end of the day, thank God that he got some money to go out and buy him some food. But at the end of the day, Jesus taught us, he says, listen, when you're giving, don't even let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And because, God sees what's in the heart. And if you want a reward, because we always go, I'm going to give and it shall be given unto me. But the Lord said, if there's a reward involved in it and we get praise for this from people, then we've already got our reward. And so, but point being is this, is we don't even like to do things without a major spotlight on us. And I wonder how many of us would still do the acts of kindness and the things if there was no cameras, nobody on us, nobody ever knew about it. How many of us would be still? That's when you're your real person. When nobody's watching. Even at work, how good of a worker are you? You're the best worker when nobody's around and the boss ain't watching and are you still doing your job? And that is when you're your best. And because you're true, because nobody's watching, the true character, the true integrity, everything comes out. And that's what I love about John the Baptist. And he was that person. His mission was not to be the one, not to be the main guy. That was his mission. John, you are born not to be the center of attention, but to point to the center of attention. Ooh, that's good, isn't it? That's so good. Man, we could close right there. I tell you, because I've already stepped on my toes and maybe everybody else's. So, there was something good to take right there. But it says, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And this is how Mark starts his gospel, as it is written in the prophets. We have Matthew and Luke. They start their gospels off with the birth of Jesus Christ, right? And we think that's where the gospel starts. The physical birth of Jesus is not where the gospel starts. Actually, Mark tells us where the gospel starts. The gospel starts in the Old Testament with the prophets pointing towards Jesus. And even the prophets pointing towards the one who would announce Jesus, who would proclaim that he was coming, to the messenger. And so I love that. Jesus, I've done many lessons about how the whole point of the Old Testament scriptures, the prophets, the law and the prophets, was to point to Jesus. And that's how he starts off. He said, this is the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, as it is written. As it is written. And I honestly believe that actually he never even says this at the end of his book. And this is the end of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Actually, I believe what Mark was meaning was it's still ongoing. The gospel is still being preached. It's still going on. As a matter of fact, the original documents that we have of Mark, most of our translations that we have here were translated from documents from the 11th century that were basically copied, hand-on copied, hand-on, and they were copied from documents from the 11th century. And that's how we, have our our Bibles, our New Testament. They were copied down. But because of archaeology and recent discoveries, they have found documents dating back before the 4th century. And going all the way back that close, they were obviously hidden. But what is interesting is Mark does not end right there. Mark, talking about in chapter 16. And that was something, I'm not saying it shouldn't go there. I believe it should go there. I believe they added some commentary and added some other things, some other eyewitnesses. And but actually the oldest ones that we have, and the most recent ones, actually ends with verse 8, the rest of chapter 16, about half of chapter 16, in verse 8. And this is how Mark ends his gospel. Mark chapter 16, verse 8. And it says this, "So they went out quickly and fled from the tomb, for they trembled and were amazed, and said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid." And you're thinking that's how the original gospel, ended. And so, but they went on and realized, I believe, what was going on. We realized, listen, we need to make sure these eyewitnesses, these other eyewitnesses like Mary Magdalene and all these were not lost. And so they began to make sure that was put there and published there, in that gospel. A lot of people have problems with that and they try to attack the gospel. I've known this for years. I've known that there's been many things